At a baseball game, Gwen enthusiastically cheers for her brother Finney, who is the pitcher. The batter, Bruce, misses the ball twice but manages to hit a home run on the third pitch, leading his team to victory. After the game, Bruce compliments Finney on his great pitching skills. Later, Bruce is riding his bike and becomes cautious when he notices a mysterious black van. Days pass, and Finney quietly slurps his breakfast, irritating his father, Terence. Gwen accidentally drops the bread keeper's lid and apologizes for the noise. As the siblings head to school, they notice a flyer about Bruce, who has been missing for days. Soon, they witness a fight between Robin and the school bully, Moose. Robin easily defeats Moose, and the other kids cheer, but Finney tries to pull Gwen away. Gwen defends Robin, saying that Moose deserved it and admires him for taking down the previous bully, Vance. Finney is uncomfortable discussing the grabber, but Gwen reassures him that the rumors about the grabber taking kids who say his name aren't true. In science class, Finney daydreams about his crush, Donna, and he also notices bullies eyeing him. He rushes to the restroom, but Robin intervenes, scaring the bullies away and warning them not to bother Finney again. Robin later explains that he fought Moose to make a point, and he asks for help with math since their teacher speaks too quickly. Finney agrees to help him. Meanwhile, Gwen is called to the principal's office to talk to detectives Wright and Miller. They question her about her conversation with Bruce's sister and her dreams, as Gwen had a dream about Bruce being taken by a man with black balloons. The detectives reveal that they found black balloons at the scene, information not publicly known. Gwen admits that her dreams are sometimes accurate. After school, Gwen stays at a friend's house. That evening, Finney discovers his father, Terence, passed out, so he cleans up after him. He then enjoys some ice cream while watching scary movies until he falls asleep. In the morning, Gwen wakes up screaming as Terence whips her with a belt, blaming her for the police questioning him at work. Gwen threatens to drop his liquor bottle if he hits her again, and when she does, he hits her twice as hard. Gwen agrees with her father that her dreams are just dreams, and Finney joins her to comfort her. Meanwhile, Robin notices a man coming out of a black van when he heads to a store. That evening, news of Robin's disappearance spreads, and Gwen expresses sympathy for her brother, who is worried about his friend. He asks Gwen if she can use her dreams to help find Robin, but she reminds him that she can't control her dreams. Gwen continues to pray to Jesus in her room for guidance to find her missing friend Robin. Her father switches on the lights from the hallway, and Gwen quickly pretends to be going to bed. Before leaving, her father expresses his love for her, and Gwen reciprocates. Days later, with Robin absent to protect him, bullies beat up Finney. Gwen rushes to his defense, using a rock to strike Maddie. She confronts Buzz, who throws her to the ground. With Gwen defeated, Buzz and Matt continue attacking Finney. In a science class, students are asked to choose partners, leaving Finney without one. However, Donna volunteers to be his partner. After school, Gwen teases Finney about Donna and then heads to spend the night at a friend's house again. Finney walks along an empty path and encounters a man stumbling out of a black van, spilling groceries. He offers to help, and the man introduces himself as a magician. Finney notices black balloons inside the van, and the man pulls them out. Unexpectedly, the man uses the balloons to trap Finney. In a struggle, Finney stabs the man in the arm with his pen, but the man sprays something into Finney's mouth and drags him into the van. When Finney regains consciousness, he's on a bare mattress in a nondescript room. The man, known as the grabber, complains about his injured arm but assures Finney he won't harm him anymore. The phone rings in the distance, and the grabber promises to explain everything upon his return. When the grabber leaves and locks the door, Finney explores the room, finding a toilet in another section. He notices a disconnected black phone on the wall. Terence calls Gwen from her friend's house, asking about Finney's whereabouts. Gwen rushes out, realizing that her brother has been taken. The police are alerted to his disappearance, and Gwen prays for his safe return. Finney is awakened by the ringing phone but is told by the grabber that it doesn't work. The grabber promises to take him home soon but has something to deal with. Fearing getting caught, Finney promises not to reveal anything to the police if released, but the grabber just laughs. Finney threatens to scream, but the grabber says he won't hear when the door is shut, leaving Finney wondering about this mysterious he. After the grabber leaves, Finney screams, but the room is soundproof. He tries to reach the window but can't. As he sleeps, Finney hears a creaking sound from the phone. He realizes the grabber is watching him. Finney asks for food, but the man refuses, saying he just wanted to look at him. The phone rings again, and a boy's voice on the other end mentions that they've met before and calls Finney by his name. Finney is startled, but the voice explains that they lose their names when they die. The boy hints that Finney's arm was mint, making Finney realize it's Bruce. Bruce mentions that the phone rang for all of them, but only Finney heard it. He instructs Finney to find a loose tile to dig a tunnel through the dirt. Meanwhile, Gwen dreams about Bruce's life before witnessing Finney screaming inside a house. In the middle of the night, she decides to search for the house, while Finney finds a loose tile and begins digging. When he gets tired, he disposes of the dirt in the toilet and conceals the hole with the carpet. The next day, the grabber brings breakfast to Finney but forgets to lock the door when he leaves. Just before Finney can go outside, the phone rings, and a new voice warns him that it's a trap. Billy's ghost appears next to him, although Finney can't see him. Billy warns that the grabber is waiting upstairs to punish him for attempting to escape, and shares that they all met the same fate. Despite the warning, Finney cautiously goes upstairs but feels the grabber waiting. He decides to go back downstairs and eat. Later, Billy calls again but insists that he's no longer Billy. As the ghost becomes agitated, Finney sees his soda bottle shaking on its own. He then points out a crack in the wall where he pulled a cable loose. Finney asks what he should do with it, and the bottle points to the window. Meanwhile, Gwen dreams about Billy delivering newspapers when the grabber took him. Finney eventually finds the cable and uses a rolled carpet to loop it around the bars. As he tries to open the window, the bars break, causing him to crash back onto the floor. That evening, Gwen talks to her father about her dreams. Terrence shares that her mother also had dreams that she believed were true, but they told her to do terrible things, and she took her own life. He expresses concern for his daughter's well-being and insists that the dreams aren't real. However, Gwen believes her dreams can help her find Finney, which prompts Terrence to reconsider, and he helps Gwen search for the house from her dreams. Soon, the police visit Max's home to ask about the missing boy. Max invites them inside, revealing that he's also investigating the abductions. He shares his belief that the abductor has a house and a garage, allowing them to take the kids out of the car unseen. However, the detectives, Miller and Wright, aren't interested in his claims and just question him. Max reveals that he's new in town and staying at his brother's house. As they leave, Miller advises Max to clean up before his brother returns, noticing substances on the coffee table. While Max snorts the powder, Finney remains trapped in the basement below him. Soon, the grabber arrives with food and asks for Finney's name. When Finney provides a fake name, the man reveals that he already knows his name and leaves the door unlocked again. Before Finney can open the door, the phone rings, but no one speaks. Upstairs, the grabber fights to stay awake while waiting for Finney. Instead, the boy gathers the spilled food to eat and then goes to sleep. Later, he wakes up to the sound of dripping and finds a dead body hanging in midair with blood dripping on the floor. The body points to the phone, so Finney answers it. A new voice warns Finney that the grabber hasn't been sleeping since he's concerned his brother might figure things out. Finney recognizes the voice as another victim, Griffin, who laments being invisible when he was alive and how everyone knew his name after his death. Finney asks Griffin why the grabber hasn't killed him, and Griffin explains it's because he hasn't played the game. This prevents the man from hurting him and moving on to the next part. Griffin reveals that the grabber has just fallen asleep and that he's using his old bike lock for the storm door. He can't remember the combination, but he carved it on the wall. Finney searches for the numbers on the wall and musters up the courage to go outside. Quietly, he goes upstairs and finds the grabber asleep in the kitchen. He sneaks past him and locates the lock. After a few attempts, he figures out the correct combination. However, a dog's barking wakes up the grabber, and Finney runs outside while the man chases him in his van. The grabber blocks Finney's path and tackles him to the ground, threatening to harm him if he makes a sound. They wait in silence until the neighbors turn off their porch lights. The grabber knocks Finney unconscious and returns him to the mattress. The next day, Gwen wonders why she didn't have any dreams the previous night and begins to question whether her father might be right about her dreams. Finney wakes up to the phone ringing, and a new voice talks to him. It's Vance, the former school bully. Vance's ghost appears and warns Finney that today is the day he's been dreading. At the same time, Gwen dreams about the day Vance was arrested for attacking 2 kids at the store and overhears his conversation with Finney on the black phone. Gwen notes the house number where Vance was taken before she wakes up. Back in the room, Vance instructs Finney on how to break the wall and get into the freezer, which leads to the storage room. He mentions it's about revenge, and his anger causes a bottle to shatter near Finney. Throughout the day, Finney works to break down the wall and finds the panel at the back of the freezer. After removing it, he goes inside but can't open the door because it's locked from the outside. Exhausted, Finney finally breaks down until the phone rings again. On the other end is Robin, who refuses to let Finney suffer the same fate. Robin praises Finney for being a fighter and teaches him how to throw a punch. He tells Finney to fill the receiver with dirt to use it as a weapon and reveals that this is their last call. He urges Finney to use what they'd given him to escape. The two say goodbye before Finney hangs up. Following Robin's advice, Finney fills the receiver with dirt and creates a tripwire using the cable. Meanwhile, Gwen searches the houses again and sees the ghosts of the grabber's victims. This startles her, causing her to fall off her bike, but she realizes she has arrived at the house she's been looking for. She rushes home and contacts the detectives, Wright and Miller, while Max notices that his brother's house is in the area he suspected the grabber might be. Soon, Finney hears the phone receiver creaking and sees it moving. Then, the lights in the room suddenly turn on, and Finney grabs the phone receiver, ready to defend himself. But instead of the grabber, Max, his brother, enters the room, shocked to discover that his own brother was the grabber all along. To Finney's horror, the grabber returns and swings an axe at his brother's head, killing him. Finally, the detectives arrive at the house, finding Gwen waiting outside. As the detectives head inside to investigate, the grabber confronts Finney, blaming him for his brother's death. The grabber retrieves the axe and calls his dog, who growls menacingly at the boy. Meanwhile, the police break into the house, only to find it empty. The grabber sets his dog's leash near the door and swings the axe at Finney. The boy manages to dodge the attack and leaps toward the toilet. As the grabber chases him, Finney pulls the cable, causing the man to trip and fall into the pit he had dug up. The grabber's foot gets caught in the window bars at the bottom, leaving him stuck. Finney fights back and removes the grabber's mask, causing panic. With the grabber momentarily vulnerable, Finney strangles him with the phone's cord. Suddenly, the phone starts ringing, so Finney places the receiver on the grabber's ear. The grabber hears the voices of his victims mocking him until Finney snaps his neck, killing him. Finally, Finney uses some meat from the broken freezer to distract the dog, allowing him to climb up the stairs. At the same time, an officer notices a hidden basement door in the other house. Inside, they discover the gruesome burial site where the grabber had been hiding his victims. Meanwhile, as Finney walks out of the house, Gwen spots him from across the street. She quickly hugs her brother just before the police approach him. Soon, their father, Terrence, finds them and embraces his son. He pleads for his kids' forgiveness for how he treated them, and the siblings take comfort in being reunited. That evening, Detective Wright reports on how the grabber owned both houses across the street from each other. One house was where he kept the victims alive, and the other was where he buried them. Days later, Finney returns to school, and all the kids, even his former bullies, watch him in awe. In science class, he confidently sits next to Donna, feeling more self-assured than ever before.